Hi, and good morning. Welcome to my Monday morning tip. However, we're actually going to change it to Monday Monologue because it's not necessarily going to be in the morning moving forward. Today's conversation is kind of interesting. It's the word that we're going to focus on today is change. And people that are going through change, organizations that go through change, how we feel about change, how modern society responds to change. And I think that the information I'm going to share, I think can be very, very, very helpful as you think about this as an individual, as an organization, if you're going to be enacting some type of change within your organization. So first of all, a couple statistics. 75% of change in organizations, according to a study that was done, fail, 75% fail on execution because they did not appropriately communicate with employees in the beginning to get additional buy-in in the processes, because that's the key in communicating that process to people. You announce change and you're going to have this big old piece that's going to happen, and there's not a plan, and you don't get buy-in from staff and buy-in from the appropriate people in the organization, 75% of them fail. And when I read that, I was completely astounded, just like completely blown away. Okay, so how do we solve that? So as an organization, if you're thinking about making a change and the change is going to impact more than several people in the organization, it's important to have a conversation with some selected individuals in the organization about what you're trying to accomplish, and then strategically talk about how we're going to communicate that to the team, how we're going to then relay that appropriately to the organization. When I read that, then I talked about how they did buy-in, it really resonated with me, because then you get people to embrace it earlier on instead of getting that slap, when people are obviously getting hit with the change in an organization. Okay, now let's switch. Employees. So you're an individual and you're being told change. First of all, roughly one third of the population is completely adverse to change. Completely adverse. So if you're completely adverse to change, if you think about that, how do you mitigate that? How do you manage that? And so one of the things that you need to do really simply is break down that change and what is that impact truly going to do to you from your perspective. The more that you can break that down, the more you might have an ability to embrace the change that much easier. That's number one. Number two, take a break. Literally change your environment. Go walk outside, do something when you've been told this information that changes your routine. Go somewhere. If you have the ability to leave like over a weekend and change your environment completely, just take it away. That alone will make you less worry about what's going to happen and more kind of focusing on kind of resetting yourself. Changing things up at home. Silly as this may sound, if you're going to experience a change and it's going to hit you heavily, if you do other changes at home that are unusual, a silly example, sleep on the other side of the bed. Instead of brushing your teeth when you get out of the shower, brush your teeth before you get in the shower. Just those simple routines on change allow you, if you do change them, if you hit with another change, to embrace it a little bit better. I mean, it's very psychological, but when I read it, I'm like, that's pretty interesting. If you change your own personal routine, it's actually may allow you to embrace change that much further. If you're thinking about it being a hard decision for you to understand, don't make the decision to understand it. The magic is if you can distill it and break it down into pieces and parts you don't quite understand, write it down. If you write it down, your memory is going to be that much stronger for you to then recall that information later in your head as to how you describe that impact's going to be. Instead of like immediately thinking about, oh my gosh, this is going to be like the worst thing ever. Pump the brakes, back up the train, and literally take time to think about it so you can have a better experience and this change is happening to you. I know some of those things might sound really cavalier and gosh, and not novel, but at the end of the day, if you do them and you think about it that way, and it might sound, well, gosh, it's easy for you to say, how do I actually do those things? Well, write those down, exactly what I just said, and give it a try. What have you got to lose? And what have you got to win? Being able to embrace change potentially that much easier when you're completely adverse to it, if that makes sense. So there's your Monday monologue. Hope you liked it. Have a great Monday, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.